Luffy just asked the disgrace of Elbaf to join his crew. As the events of Elbaf are turning out to be catastrophic, the giants being turned into demons, Emu's arrival and the Holy Knights causing more chaos, Luffy wants to team up with Loki to take down Emu. But after setting Elbaf on fire and murdering Elbaf's great king Harald, why does Luffy still chooses to shake hands with a criminal, let alone invite him to join his crew? Because a few years ago, during the murder of King Harald, things didn't go the way it has been shown to us, and it outright hurts Loki to even remember about that day. The truth about Loki might flip his character upside down in your mind, but that's not the only thing which was revealed, because we now have an answer to a decade-old question, maybe even decades-old question, on why Shanks willingly lost his left arm. The same arm which had an abyss mark, which was revealed in this chapter. Was it really to save Luffy, or was it to make Emu lose his biggest pawn in the game? We find that out later on in this chapter, but first, Luffy is advised by Gaban that Emu and the Holy Knights aren't immortals, and that the correct use of Conqueror's Haki can take them down. So it's revealed that it isn't a new type of Haki or a subtype of Conquerors, but using Conquerors properly. Because if you see, Conquerors comes out in a very scattered way, so he's just telling them to use it in a tamed way. As Gaban further goes on to say that someone other than Luffy has it in their crew, and that's obviously Zoro and not Sanji. Gaban outright ignores him, like damn. But Zoro is so blunt and oblivious that he doesn't even know he has Conquerors. Of course, because he's a blockhead. Well, it's basically when he uses the King of Hell style, or when he goes Ashura mode, I guess, because those were the only times it felt like he was using Conquerors. So if Zoro knows how to tame that energy, he can be one more person who's able to take down the Holy Knights. But Loki can't just sit in a place and he says he wanna fight too and not let outsiders save the country. But Hajruddin doesn't allow him. But Loki says he has faced these knights before, and something just clicked when Gaban said to use Conquerors more carefully. But there are two situations where Loki fought someone like the Holy Knights. One when Gunko smacked the shit out of Loki, although I wouldn't really consider this incident because Loki didn't fight anyone here, he was just getting ragdolled. And two, when he fought a mysterious person in a castle during Harald's death, which I'll talk in a minute. But before that, out of nowhere, Luffy says to join his crew. To Loki. This level of friendship and outright approach and Luffy's willingness for someone to join his crew was done back in Fishman Island with Jinbei, and now with Loki. And his logic was that if Loki is my crewmate, you have to release him. Well, it makes total sense on why he would do it, because Luffy may not know what happened with Loki, but his gut instinct and sense of people has been on point ever since he met him. And Loki, although started off as a completely antagonist vibe, has spent enough time vibing with Luffy. Even if he denied Luffy, I can 100% see him joining by the end of this arc, and keeping in mind that Blackbeard pirates are literally the antithesis of Straw Hat pirates. They have a giant, and the only thing that is missing on Luffy's crew is a giant. And we can't forget the mural. It literally shows Luffy fighting side by side with the giants with big horn, which is 100% Loki because he's a certified government hater. But then Gaban steps in and says to release him, as he trusts Loki and remembers the day Harald got murdered. Everybody goes to Sunrealm except Luffy, Gaban, Hajruddin and Loki, and Hajruddin tells Loki to tell him everything that happened on that day. And this dude, although he smiles, but it hurts him to even remember that day. Because to discover Loki's truth, we go back 14 years in time where Loki was summoned for the first time, and he meets Jarl as they are moving in Elbaf's castle, while Loki speaks ill of his dad. Although he hates that his dad is planning to side with government who killed Rox, so it's confirmed that Rox died on God Valley, or maybe he was killed later on. But whatever it is, the government did it. Loki isn't explicitly a bad guy. He's just brutal in his own way, but he loves his home and respects his dad. But as soon as he enters the throne room, they see all the guards stabbing Harald, who's in a black silhouette. And someone closes the door, a weird haki gets emitted out of the castle, and someone steals the legendary devil fruit passed through the generations in Elbaf. And it's not Loki, and that makes him innocent and explains why he's super strong in chains, because he never ate a devil fruit. So sea stone won't affect him. And it's 100% that this mysterious figure is a god knight or maybe even Emu. Now either Harald got altered into a demon form just like Dory and Broggy, or the guards got brainwashed by some powers to stab Harald. Whatever the case is, Loki did not do it, and neither did he stab Jarl. In fact, he was just there witnessing the whole murder, done by the government, possibly Emu, because Emu did say that Harald blundered that day. What I think most likely happened is that Harald denied Emu or a holy knight and got killed, and the fruit was stolen as a result, and Loki was framed. Or he turned into a demon like Dorian Broggy and Loki had to kill him forcefully to save his home. And in fact, this incident happens in the same room where Shamrock was summoned in the first few chapters of Elbaf. So that seals the deal that someone from either the Holy Knights, the Gorosei, or Emu himself came here to kill Harald and Loki had to fight that person. Just a quick reminder, if you're enjoying this chaos, consider subscribing. Thanks if you did. If you didn't, that's fine as well. Back to the video. But while this was happening near the castle, Shanks and Gaban were chilling at Gaban's place with Ripley and baby Cologne. And both were talking about how it's only been 3 to 4 years since Roger died, to which Shanks says that it's 10. Well, living with giants has slowed down Gaban's sense of time, I guess. Shanks then says that he wanted to be a pirate that goofs around with Buggy, but he wanted to know something and couldn't talk to Harald in Marijua. This ties in directly to what Shamrock once said about Shanks, that he came back to Marijua, and I said back in one of my old videos that he went there before he became a pirate. And it's true, because this Shanks looks very young, like 17-18. But before we move on, while Shanks was sitting there in Sona, we see the back of his hand with an abyss mark. The same hand which he lost to the Sea King. This is the same mark which is used to teleport, and knowing Shanks either went to Marijua or was taken, most likely in this case he was taken, as a kid when he parted ways with Buggy, it can be that he got it because he's from the Figureland family, and he sacrificed his arm to escape Emu's power, because whoever with this mark can get controlled by Emu, I think. Although not explicitly stated, but only the Gorosei and the Holy Knights have these marks. So either Shanks was a Holy Knight or a special case wherein he was trained to be one and got it because he was a Figureland. Back to Gaban, as Shanks tells him that he wants to talk to Harald about something before it's too late, and they sense black lightning coming out of the castle. Now what possibly could be the case is that the legendary devil fruit was the Nika fruit, and Shanks saw what the government did to Harald and lost it. So he became a pirate out of anger, and if you think about it, why did Shanks specifically stole the Nika fruit out of everything on the ship? He had a reason, and the reason was to not let such a power slip into government's hand. But then we move on to another backstory, a story 109 years ago when Dory and Broggy were young and the giant pirates was led by a 45-year-old, in human years 15 years old, Harald, who was a total scum, and he smashes one of his underlings into a building. Well, now I see why Loki is also one. This gives similar vibe to Odin, and I think we'll be spending 4 to 5 chapters on this from here. Well, that was the end of chapter, and I believe Loki will get unlocked after this flashback and will join the crew. But that was it for today, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, bye bye.